The steward said, "But you have kept the good wine until now." Please be seated. I know this is a silly question, but how many of you have been to a wedding? There we go. I figured there was a few of us who have been to one or two in our lifetime. You may have even planned one. You may have even been in one. Weddings are spectacular. They're filled with joy. They're filled with hope. They're filled with life and the hope of new life. Weddings are amazing, and Jesus was there. Jesus was in the middle on the third day. For weddings in those days weren't from about 5 in the afternoon until 9, 10, 11 in the evening. They went on and on and on, sometimes for a week. Can you imagine going to a wedding for a week? That's a long time. So therefore, that wine, now it starts to make sense. That wine would go away fairly quickly, it feels like. That wine that Jesus was asked to provide was not the wine even at 7 o'clock in the evening, maybe not even 9 o'clock in the evening, but even later. The party was well on its way. Those of you who, may have been in a wedding or know of a wedding or plan a wedding, know that weddings start well before 9 o'clock on the night of the ceremony. They start months and months, sometimes a year beforehand. And people start sitting down and start looking at what this is going to look like. How much wine is going to be served? Is it an open bar? Is it a cash bar? What is the wine going to look like? And then the ceremony comes, and the glorious bride in her white dress and down the aisle, and all of the pomp and ceremony of the ceremony comes to its end, and then everybody goes off, and there's the first dance and the meal and the rest of the night. Well, we are in that rest of the night. The wedding is almost over. It's been a long journey. A long time in planning, a long time in celebration, and a long time in just plain and simple fun. The joining of families, the joining of a husband and a wife, the joining of love. Jesus invites on this day for a hospitality to never end. Hospitality. I know many of you from your homes never want your parties to end, do you? I know Biddy. She just wants them to continue on and on, right? We love to get together and have a celebration. Jesus says, as his mother said to the steward, just do what he tells you to do. I love that line. You just listen to him. And off they go, and he takes this water, and it becomes wine. It is the very first miracle story of the Gospels. It is a miracle, for it is one of those things that even today we think, well, how did this happen? We want to know. It just did happen. It just happened. And Jesus, in his story of life, says, this is what's going to happen with me. This is what's going to happen with you. This is what's going to happen in your life of faith, is that this water will turn into wine when we stick to it. It's not just about planning. And it's not just about a ceremony. It's about the life that continues forward from that day on. People come to me and they say they want to get married. It's one of the greatest gifts of being a minister. So we sit down and we start talking about, however, marriage. Not just a ceremony, but life as a married couple. And Jesus' story today talks about the effervescent joy that comes from marriage day after day, week after week, year after year. There's a quote that I've heard many times recently. I'm not sure it's a new quote. It says, when the table is full, and someone asks to sit down, extend the table. Oftentimes we think about, okay, we can have about 8 or 10, or if our tables are big enough, 12 or more people to sit at them. But when it gets full, we want to close the door, don't we? We want to say, there's no more room. We'll put the kids over on the side table, but that's about it. This effervescent joy of these filling of these water jars when Mary said, you go do what he said, is about extending that table. It is about making it as long as absolutely necessary so that the party will continue, so that the joy of God is known, so that the love of God is always present. It doesn't matter whether it's our houses or our church or our faith. We are invited. In fact, one might even say hospitality is a gospel virtue that is required. I struggle with that word when it comes to faith. I don't want requirements, but this one is. Our hearts, our tables, our lives are always to be open. That table is to be extended. That's the wine, water that we can turn into wine. Yeah. How many of you have turned water into wine? But isn't that the invitation today? When this table right up here, it's an interesting table. You know, it's not one for sitting at. I mean, if we sat at it, it would come up to our chest. It'd be hard to eat at. But it is a table nonetheless. And this table is about 5 feet long, maybe 5.5, 6 feet. It's taller than she is long. So. But we're all sitting around it. We are all sitting around this table that will be filled with bread and wine that will never end. There's enough, not just for those of us even in this room, there is enough love and joy of God for the world. Extend the table. Don't lock the door. Jesus says, on that third day, when the wedding feast seems to be lacking of something, don't stop the party. I mean, how many of us would just, in the middle of the party, pull the plug on the band? I don't think that's so. It's called Drum Up Another Song. Dance one more time. Hospitality is not a one-time shot. Hospitality is a long-term discipline of faith. That whether we're new or long-term, the invitation to God is ours to extend in this place and every place.
Amen.